Welcome to the Lou Review podcast. I'm your host, Rosa Hart, and today I am joined by one of the co-owners of Ponyboy, which is a bourbon cocktail company in a can.
Yes,
Bourbon and cocktails in a can company. So, Janelle, thank you so much for joining me today.
absolutely. Thank you for having me. And sorry, my dog Whiskey is,
Oh,
he wanted to say hi right when we started. So,
had to let himself be known.
of course.
Yeah. So I've been wanting to get to know you for a while. We've been like orbiting each other in the foodie
Mhm.
scene. And so I'm so thankful we finally found a time that worked for both of us.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. I was like, oh, yes, we need to get this on the books.
Yeah. So let's start with kind of your backstory. Now, are you from the Louisville area originally?
Yeah, so I'm from the border of Indiana and Kentucky on the Indiana side. So we like to claim Louisville. Louisville does not like to claim us. But,
So weird.
it is what it is. But yeah, I'm from there originally. I moved away in 2011. I went to IU and lived in like Indianapolis and things like that. And then I went to California in 2011 and came back during COVID. So.
Yeah. And I heard before we got started that you used to do voiceover work.
Oh yeah. So yeah. I mean, while I was in California, I always bartended, right? And served and chef-driven restaurants and just ended up learning a ton about wine and cocktails and beer and all the stuff. And while doing that, I pursued a lot of comedy. So I did
Oh,
sketch, yeah, and improv. I did a year of stand-up. And then what I did the most of was voiceover. So yeah, and I still do it every once in a while. Now it's like if it's requested because I just have zero time to audition these days. But I loved it when I did it.
so what all would be included in voiceover? Do you read audiobooks or what?
So I actually never did audiobooks. I did mostly video games, believe it or not. I
Oh,
did some children's animation. A lot of like deeper sounding women end up voicing like pre-pubescent boys.
oh,
So I did a lot of like boy voices for a while, and then I did commercials and podcasts, like stories, and I did just yeah, all those kinds of things. Yeah.
that is so interesting. And I bet you are so full of stories in that whole genre. Now I just want to pick your brain about all that. But
Oh my gosh.
I do want to talk about why we're here and
Yeah.
what brought you back to the
Yeah.
Kentuckiana area.
Yeah. Well, COVID brought me back. My dad lives on a little lake in Georgetown, Indiana. And so I was like, okay, lake or concrete backyard, And so during COVID, I came back and then I was just kind of like, man, I don't want to go back to LA. I want to stay here. Just as it was so nice. And I ended up meeting Mike, my husband and co-founder. We met in like a 10-minute span during COVID on Bumble, which is
Whoa.
wild. I know. It was like December of 2020 is when we first met. And our whole trajectory was kind of a whirlwind. Like we kind of instantly fell for one another. But we're both older. We'd never been married, never had kids. And it was just kind of like, yeah, this is it. And so we started dating. We ended up, so he has a very similar background in the beverage and, bar industry.
Did he go to California too?
No, so he did, but like a whole different time than when I was out
Oh,
there. But he's from Orlando and he lived there most of his life. And he bartended and then he started opening bars all around Winter Park area. And he got into the cocktail competition circuit and he started consulting and he really went super far with it all. I always just bartended, but I ended up like learning wine under a level 5 som at a place called Spago. And I'm like, I don't know why, but I'm doing that. And then all of a sudden I'm a beer cicerone at this tavern and I'm learning how to make beer. And it was just like I
wow.
kept acquiring all of these different niche alcohol like skills, which was at the time I thought for no reason, but now I'm like, oh, okay, cool. It's like full circle.
It was
Yeah.
destiny.
Yes, it was meant to be. Well, I know. And honestly, when Mike and I got together, it was like people were asking him to do bar stuff. People were asking me. And we're like, let's just do it together and, start consulting together. So we started Punch Bowl Project, where we were consulting for basically bourbon brands around Kentucky. We were
Mhm.
working through proof media mix and doing events for different bourbons, and we would create these like light bourbon cocktails for their visitor centers and
Yeah.
events. And then we also worked with like Sazerac for national restaurant menu placement. So basically, they would hire us to create cocktails for them to pitch to these national restaurants. So
Wow.
yeah, that's what we did before Ponyboy. So,
That's so
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
When did you, like, usually cocktails are in a nice glass. So
Hmm.
when did the transition to cans come into the
Yeah.
conversation?
Yeah. So it was wild. We were kind of just saying yes to whatever came our way. We're doing all kinds of events and stuff. And it so the trajectory of us meeting, like we met in December of 2020. Okay, 2 months later, we ended up moving in. 4 months later, we started, or 4 months from the start, we started Punch Bowl Project. 8 months, we got engaged in Paris,
Mhm.
actually.
In
And then,
Paris.
I know, in Paris, I know. 10 months, we were doing an event for Blade and Bow out in Lexington. It was like a Coaches for Kids charity event, and we had made this peach bourbon iced tea, and we always batched it back into the bottles. Well, it tea looks like straight bourbon, so we made that because we were like, oh, this will appeal to the men and women, and everybody will like it. Well, we get there and it's an all male event, and I'm like, oh no. And so they start coming up to the table and they're like, I'll take mine neat, I'll take mine on the rocks, and I'm like, oh, this is a batched cocktail. I'm so sorry. This isn't bourbon, straight bourbon. And I ended up having to kind of like pitch it to them. But we use peaches from Huber's Orchard, and
Mhm.
we did
Yeah.
an Earl Grey tea syrup and blah, blah, blah. And so Mike's building them all out, and I'm kind of pitching the story. Well, little did we know there was an investor there who had plucked a card off our bar, and we end up having a meeting with him a couple weeks later, and he's like, look, you guys have a great story, you clearly know what you're doing. Have you thought about cocktails in cans, like canned RTDs, ready to drink?
Mhm.
And we just kind of looked at each other like, canned cocktails? And he's like, I think you all should stop consulting, start putting your cocktails in cans. And yeah,
Well, my
I know.
goodness.
Yeah, we were like, okay, challenge accepted. So then we were like, okay, let's start. And then at 11 months, I'll just in
Mhm.
on our
Yeah, yeah.
11 months, we had a surprise wedding. And
Oh,
yeah, it was our engagement party, and we surprised everyone, and it was our wedding.
well, I'm glad you didn't get surprised by other people bringing in a minister or something like. Okay, I'm glad you
No,
were
no, no, no. We
ready.
we planned it. We just
Okay,
surprised all our guests. Yeah, it was really fun.
that sounds like fun.
Yeah,
Can I
yeah.
ask where was it?
So my best friend Nellie, she has a house over in Jeff, and it's a beautiful old house.
Mhm.
And she
Oh.
was adamant about throwing our engagement party,
Mhm.
and it was a champagne theme, and she was kind of really like pulling out all the stops. And all of Mike's family that he invited, they all said yes, and all my friends and family, they all said yes. And his family from Florida, my friends from California, and we just were
Whoa.
like, this is exactly who we would invite to our wedding.
Yeah.
Why don't we just surprise them and we'll make it into our wedding? And it was like
Perfect.
best decision ever.
I mean, to have all those people traveling just for an engagement party,
Yeah,
that's real. Honestly, I feel like that's really kind of you to not, not
I
ask them to come
know.
back for a wedding too.
Well, same. I was like, I can't ask them to then come back. Yeah, it was a whole thing. And I think honestly, because of Mike and I kind of just flying by the seat of our pants, we kept pitching it because we wanted everyone to come. Like, we might get eloped somewhere, this might be the biggest
Right.
party we have. So they're like, well, I'm coming. Yeah.
Well, good.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
it
they
was
got a
great.
hint that it was important that they be there.
Yeah. But no one had any idea.
Right.
It was
Yes.
hysterical. They were like, their jaws were dropped. My friends were crying. They're like, "This is amazing."
It is amazing. I mean,
For sure.
that in a world full of so much where you're not sure what's real, it's so nice to have some genuine surprise once in a
Oh,
while.
I know.
And
I
it's
know.
the opposite of clickbait, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that's so
something more
true.
satisfying than whatever you thought you were getting into.
Absolutely. That was honestly the best part. Is like it elevated the night. Everybody was just so stoked, and it just made the whole rest of the night that much more fun. And yeah, it was good.
Okay, now help me out here. Was it the month before you had started talking about starting Ponyboy in
Yeah.
cans? Yeah.
Yep. Yep. The month before, the idea kind of came about to do a canned cocktail. We hadn't
Okay.
even come up with a name. We
Right.
didn't we knew we wanted to do bourbon, but we were contemplating doing multiple spirits. I mean, that was in the big wake of White Claw. That was when White Claw
Right.
was huge, and High Noon was just getting on the shelves. So
Mhm.
there really there really weren't any bourbon cocktails. So we were like, okay, we know bourbon. We already make really
Yeah.
light bourbon cocktails and kind of test marketed them at these
Yeah.
visitor centers, not realizing we were test marketing. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So,
But you found the market and you
yeah,
learned what the market liked. So you really just had a great head start. That's
yeah,
fantastic.
yes, for sure. I feel really lucky about that part of our story. And it was kind of just so aligned that we
Hmm.
were like, well, yeah, challenge accepted.
Hmm.
Do we know how to translate a cocktail to a can? No, but will we find out and do it the best we could do? Yes. So,
Was it tricky? Was there
yeah.
adjustments to the flavor profile you had to make?
Well, yeah, it's completely different than making a cocktail at a bar, because you have to have shelf life and everything, and things have to meld together right and go in a can correctly. And so, yeah, it took us about 2 years to formulate three SKUs. And Mike, there was nothing at the time out there about how to create a canned RTD. This was before Chat GPT.
Right?
And so we found this food scientist out of Denver, and she and Mike kind of became really close, and she helped us like figure out how to do it because she had already been doing it for a while, and so it was we learned a lot of things that don't go right, and we went opposite of that
Mhm.
for the can. So yeah.
And it sounds like you got a winner.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes,
was it, let's
yeah.
see, so what year was it? 22 when you were able to finally release it, or was it 23?
It was 23. It was July of 23 was when we introduced it to the market in Kentucky. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
And
It
you have a neat little like 70s theme going on, don't you?
yeah.
Is that just something you guys do, or is that something that like is consistent like nationally whenever you're promoting it or
Yeah, so when we were coming up with Ponyboy, first off, we wanted it to feel opposite of a bottle of bourbon. So we wanted it to feel fun and free and like inviting and just not so serious.
yeah,
And the 70s retro vibe kind of has this through line of like all is welcome, like let's party, but like cool. It just felt
yeah.
very it wasn't even a big discussion. It was like, yeah, you want to do this? Yes. And then the name came about because our dog Whiskey, actually, we call him Whiskey Boy.
Oh.
And yeah, and so we were like, okay, maybe we'll call them Whiskey Boys. But then if we were still trying to figure out, well, what if we want to do another spirit later on?
Mhm.
So our nod to Kentucky, I said, what about Pony Boy? And
Oh.
Mike was like, oh, like the Outsiders? And I was like, what's the Outsiders? Because I didn't know, but it's a book and a movie,
Oh.
and the lead character's name is Pony Boy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I
But,
know. So random.
does that mean you had to like check for copyright or something?
Yeah, yes. And there wasn't a
Okay.
copyright or a trademark on it or
Yeah.
anything. So we trademarked Pony Boy, um and yeah, that's kind of like the whole retro theme, that kind of is the reason why
Because
we
it just
chose
fit the
that.
vibe.
Fit the vibe. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
fantastic. And then,
Yeah.
so then you won a competition, like a blind tasting competition, right? Was that
Mm.
in 24?
Yeah, well, actually it was December of 23. So,
Okay, same year it
um,
came out.
yeah, yeah. So basically, BevNet, it's this huge beverage resource. It has alc and non-alc. They do food and beer too. And like when we were trying to figure out how to translate cocktails to cans, like that was one of our main resources. They just there's like articles we would reference, and just we did so much research through them. So we definitely followed along with what they did. They didn't know us at the time, but
Hmm.
they would throw these cocktail showdowns where they would pick like 6 to 8 new and emerging RTD, ready to drink brands in the whole country. And at that point, they had done like maybe 4 or 5 competitions, and we had watched them and got really familiar with the other brands that were, introducing RTDs. And when we launched, I said to Mike, I'm like, well, it's for new and emerging brands. Like, this is the time. And so we applied to compete,
Okay.
and they selected us to compete. And so we flew out to Marina Del Rey, and there were 8 of us from all over, and we ended up winning the whole thing. And so I know it was really an awesome moment because, you know, for 2 years, I'm the one tasting everything.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike did probably 30 iterations of each one. And our friends and some of our industry peers tasted along the way, but not a ton. And it was like we released into the market, and we're getting some feedback, but BevNet was like our first real industry peers that know what they're doing, like tasting it and telling us what they thought. So that meant a lot to us. So
Yeah.
it was a big win for Ponyboy.
Right, for sure. Now, did all three flavors win, or
Yeah,
did that
so basically you can if you've got 1 or 5, you can put them all in, and they taste it and they judge you. It's like a Shark Tank. You have
work?
5 minutes. If you go over 5 minutes, they'll gong you off the stage.
Yeah.
And you have to pitch like your brand, your message, your tone, your marketing, your go-to-market strategy. It's all like business plan with your products. And so they
Okay.
taste beforehand before they hear your pitch. So they get to kind of see what it's about before they even hear the pitch. And then you get on stage and then they hear your whole pitch.
I like that because I do very much recognize the effect that a story has on my perception.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a
Yes.
critic. I'm here to enjoy things. And if you tell me a story, it's going to help me enjoy things, probably, unless it's a very sad story or unless it gives me a negative emotion, in which case I may not enjoy the thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm
Well,
very
and
susceptible. So, is that something
yeah.
that affects a lot of people?
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I feel like sales is storytelling,
Hmm.
100%. And this competition I loved because they didn't know who we were. They don't there's so many awards out there, especially in the spirits industry, alcohol industry, that you can pay a certain amount of money and you get some sort of certification or medal or whatever. And I don't know, this felt very unbiased.
Hmm.
And you go into it not knowing anything really, and I know this because I got to judge the following year.
Oh,
So
really?
I got to see the process of judging, and I just love it so much because it really is like an even playing field. People, it's real notes. Like the judges aren't judging you to be harsh or mean. It's like, let me help you. This is a specialist that knows retail, sales, and this one, works for distribution. And then like
Mhm.
me, for example, I was like a peer. I was like another RTD person. So
Mhm.
it was awesome. I had a great time doing it.
That is just so exciting. I just love how everything just kind of organically built up and you guys were able to make this happen. And I think it's just, there's so many people around here with great ideas and that
Hmm.
take action and make it happen. And you're definitely two of those people, you and
Hmm.
Mike. So,
Well,
um,
thank you.
yeah. So, what are you most excited about for Ponyboy right now?
Yeah, to piggyback on what you were just saying, it's yeah, I listen to podcasts all the time of other brands, and it does it takes like the hardest step is just to go from the idea to like actually doing it. But it really is like Mike and I look at each other all the time. We're like, this is the hardest thing we've ever done in our entire life. But it, there's not another way. Like this is our way, and so
Mhm.
people out there that may have their own brands don't think it's all sunshine and rainbows. It's definitely hard, and we go through roller coaster moments all the time. Um, but what I really do believe in, and why I think we have such a drive is like what I'm excited with Ponyboy is I feel like the drinking culture is changing, and what I've seen being in the market for 2 years now is that so many people want to be a part of bourbon culture, and it's so big here, as you know, and
Mhm.
we have a lot of pride in our bourbon, but there hasn't been a lot of innovation there in the sense of a new vessel or a new way to drink it or anything. So the only people that can participate in that bourbon culture in the bourbon culture has been people that like it very spirit forward, right? Like even in cocktails, it typically is spirit forward. Old fashions, Manhattans, things like
Mhm.
that. And I love bourbon. We're huge bourbon
Mhm.
fans. But what I've learned is there's so many people that want to like bourbon and they try and they can't because it's always given to them in the same kind of
Mhm.
form. And
Mhm.
so what I've been seeing is like our bourbon is definitely on the back end, right? Like it's super refreshing, very it's melded in there really well, so it's one cohesive kind of balanced taste. And we have so many people that now can drink bourbon and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I can drink this with my friends. I can bring this to this party. I can drink it with my husband. Now I can do
Yeah.
it." And it was a it wasn't something that I had planned on going into it. I didn't even really know that that many people exist. It's just been a really cool after, experience to be like, "Oh, I think this is like we like to be the sidekick to bourbon and other spirits." It's like, yeah, still drink bourbon. Bourbon's amazing, but now you can like have it in a form that you toss it in a cooler. You can drink it on a
Right.
boat. You don't have to settle for a beer or settle for another spirit that you don't like as much. You can
Right.
have both. And so we aren't trying to, you know by any means push away bourbon. We say we're cheerleaders for bourbon. We're
Yeah.
just trying to get more people on the bourbon train.
Exactly. People who need it to be, a lighter palate for them to get
Exactly.
accustomed or to just participate. Like
Yeah.
maybe they're not the one who planned this trip where they're going to 12 distilleries in a weekend and
Yes.
they are not interested in having all that straight bourbon and they need something
We
lighter. Yeah.
yeah. We hear that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
When we do tastings at the Evergreen in Nulu,
Mm-hmm.
there's so many people that stay right there for the Bourbon Trail, and every group has a couple people that are like, "Wait, what is this? I like this,"
And they're
It's,
so relieved.
yeah, it
It's like a
is
lot of
cool.
them have drivers. They have their designated tour bus driver, and
Hmm.
so they don't have to stay completely sober, but they
Yeah.
also are like, I don't, I feel like it hurts me.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was me. That was totally me.
Yeah.
I have acquired a taste, but because of the bourbon culture, and I do
Hmm.
love bourbon culture here.
Hmm.
But I definitely see how a lot of people get to feeling left out that way. So I
Yeah.
love that there are lighter options like this, as well as a lot of great mocktail options now. Because like the younger
Absolutely.
people like Gen Z is not interested in the alcohol because they're trying to make healthier choices or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I'm really glad when there's an option for everybody because what
Hmm.
I love about it is how it brings people together.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the best part about drinking
Hmm.
is the you share it with somebody typically. And so, yeah, I feel like that's been a really cool thing to see over these 2 years. And yeah, our last batch is we were using MGP, which we're very vocal about it.
Yeah.
So a lot of, bourbon connoisseurs, they know MGP. They're kind of like a bulk. Are you familiar? It's like bulk distillery, contract
Hmm.
distillery. Um, and a lot of bourbon, like a lot of bourbon brands will use MGP while theirs is aging. They can match mash bills and years and all this stuff. Like MGP pretty much has everything, and their juice is great. And we have been using a year. It's year old. It's 21% rye bourbon,
Hmm.
and so it's just kind of like dry and sharp when it's by itself,
Hmm.
which it's really meant to be blended. So
Yeah.
I get
It's
that a lot.
perfect for blending.
It's
Yeah.
perfect for blending because I'll get people being like, "Oh, I don't mix my bourbon." I'm like, "Well, I don't either if it's like 4 years, plus." But ours is only 1 year old, so it's really nice to blend it. But now we're switching and we're vocal about it. This Mike is not here right now because he's driving back from our co-packer for our last production run, and we are switching to Green River for this one.
Oh, yay.
Yes, so we got Green River, very similar mash bill, and so we're super excited to kind of partner with them a little bit.
Yeah, they are
Yeah.
really growing. I did a distillery tour out there a year or two ago, and so far, that's the only bourbon I like neat.
Oh,
And I
amazing.
learned that when I added the drop of water to open it
Mhm.
up. Girl, it opened up all the wrong things. And I was like, how did I go from liking this okay to not liking it at all? And
Oh my
now
gosh,
I
really?
don't let anybody mix my bottle of Green River bourbon. I'm like, this gets to stand on its own. Yeah.
I love that.
And then like Michter's rye is my favorite rye, and I didn't think
Oh,
I liked any rye until that changed my
Michter's Fry is so
life.
good. Oh my gosh, yes. It's one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah. So it's
Oh,
interesting because like you just got to try a lot of different things to find out what you like, and it's not all once.
yeah.
It really is different. There's a reason you do flights. And
Yes.
so I like doing Ponyboy flights, so I get to taste them all. So thank you for bringing your samples out to all these different events so I could try it.
Oh yeah, that's the like most fun part about it is letting people try them and see which one their favorite is. Because one thing that we wanted to do is we want to make each one really different and not just be like, here's the same template. We're just gonna switch out this fruit. We didn't want to do that. Like a
Mhm.
lot of seltzers kind of do that to
Yeah.
give like context, but um, we're like, let's do a cream soda. That's kind of like a,
Hmm.
old fashioned soda style. And then let's do a tart, juicy, super tart cherry. And then the bourbon pop star was like a strawberry spritz. Um, and we're actually changing the names
Oh,
too to be more like if you don't know us and you look at the can, you'll know what it is
yeah.
because we were called the bourbon pop star. Now it's going to be bourbon strawberry spritz.
Okay.
Yeah, and then My Cherry and More, which you would be
Yes.
like, what is that? Is now going to be a bourbon cherry crush because we
Okay.
feel like that kind of
Yeah.
describes it. And
Yeah.
the cream soda is easy. It's going from Derby cream soda to bourbon cream soda. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's lovely. Yeah, because it's year round, not just derby season.
I know.
Yeah.
Maybe Keeneland will pick us up then.
Ooh, were they feeling limited?
No, I just joked
Yeah.
with them. We were really close to getting the cans into Keeneland. I was like, if you do it, maybe we'll change the name to Keeneland cream soda.
Oh my goodness.
No, but now it's just bourbon cream soda. So,
Right? It can just go. So Japan will love it.
yeah, yes, absolutely.
Says bourbon. We need all of it, please.
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, awesome. And then, so
Yeah.
thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and share your story. So where all can people find Ponyboy cans?
Yeah. Thank you for taking the time to interview me and letting me chat about it. So we're in Kentucky and Tennessee. We're about to open Georgia and a couple more states. And so, yeah. So for now, though, in Kentucky, you can find us at all four Total Wines, most of the liquor barns, most of the evergreens, and then a handful of boutiques like Top Hat, Breeze, Goldie's, State Liquors, and yeah. And then in Tennessee, you can find us in Nashville,
Mhm.
Knoxville, and East Tennessee, and the major liquor stores there. So
Nice. You're
yeah,
getting around.
I
That's
know we're
awesome.
trying.
Awesome. And then if people want to follow you on social media, it's Drink Ponyboy?
Yep, drink Ponyboy, all one word. And so, yeah, we do a bunch of fun stuff. And I just hired a social media team, and they're young and they're great,
Woo!
and they're going to help me out. So,
Well, you've already been making great stuff. Did they help you
well,
make the
thank you.
Nashville like rooftop party stuff, or did you do that?
They helped me with that one.
You
Yep.
did? Okay.
Yep.
That
Yep.
was like,
Before about from a month ago on, they've been helping. But yeah, I started it all up, and I do photography too, so I shoot for Ponyboy as well, which has been very helpful. But
mm,
now I'm very happy for them to help me
yeah.
and take that off my plate a little bit.
Yeah, it's
So,
not about what you can you do it because
mhm.
we just have to delegate. Yes, there's a lot of things we could do, but what can we do that other people can do? And then what can we do that other people can't do, right? We have to
Yeah.
like
Yes.
honor our own gifts. So,
Absolutely. And please, there's lots of people better than me at a lot of things. So I want to hire them. I will hire them, please. No,
fantastic.
but yeah.
Right. Well, if you have enjoyed this episode of the Lou Review podcast, definitely like and subscribe wherever you are listening. If you're on an audio platform or if you're watching this video on YouTube, make sure you give us a thumbs up. Leave us a comment and let us know what you think, especially if you know of another business owner or a nonprofit in the Louisville, Kentuckiana area
Hmm.
that's making this just an even better place to be. We want to know about it and shine a light on it because a lot is happening really fast. As you heard from Janelle's story, all this was in the last 5 years.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. That's for sure. Time is going by super fast.
Right?
Yeah,
Time flies when you're having fun.
that's true. That
That's
is true.
right. So I will be continuing to adventure around the area. So follow me on social media at Rosa Raves, and I will see you in the next episode.
Awesome. Thanks, Rosa.
Thanks.